Well, what is going on, guys, and welcome into the video. Well, Palantir had their earnings, and let's just say it was less than desirable once again, but at least Alex didn't bang the table again, because that's a clear indicator about company performance. Basically, you bang on a table, company is terrible. If you don't bang on the table, the company has a chance, so Palantir has that going for them. Well, they have a chance because Alex didn't bang the table. Putting all that silliness aside, this earnings went down exactly as I expected it to and created the exact divisive reaction that we expected as well. So I will give you a complete breakdown today and let you know exactly what changed and where I think this is all going. And I'll tell you if I bought more shares or if I may have sold some shares of Palantir. I just ask in exchange for you to gently tap that like button and consider subscribing too. It's super easy to do if you like the truth without the hype. And check this out, guys, just for you. So before we get started, I wanted to address two things before everyone decides to bash everyone else or myself for the decisions we've made, and they are important to remember before jumping all over someone else for deciding to sell or hold or buy more or whatever decisions they've made around this stock. The first, and it's the biggest truth with investing, is that we can all win, guys. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the beauty of investing is, unlike everything else in this world, it seems, we can all win. I mean, short sellers can win at the same time longs can win, and kind of everything in between. If you choose to hold or buy more, you can win and make a lot of money if the stock goes where you think it will go in 3 years. And if you choose to sell and invest elsewhere, you too can make a lot of money in 3 years too, in whatever you choose to put that money into as well. Everybody can win with different stocks, different strategies, different goals, different everything. The only losers are those that do not put in the work, so they are basically trading one day and jumping in and out of stocks, and then you turn into kind of a macro trader because nobody can time the market. We all acknowledge that. But if I say it's the macro environment that's bad, then I'm not market timing anymore because, I don't know, well, reasons. I'm not market timing, even though that's exactly what I'm doing. Those people will lose over the long run, along with the people who choose not to invest at all. Those are the only guaranteed losers in investing. Otherwise, we can all win doing it 5,000 different ways. It's not politics, guys. It's not the lottery. It's investing, and there are millions of winners out there doing it thousands of different ways. The second thing I wanted to address is the expectations for this stock itself. Now, there are many out there who expected this to be a $1 trillion stock in like 3 years, and if it wasn't clear before, it has to be clear as day now. They are not going to get anywhere close to that in that time frame. Now, I'm not saying it can't get there in the future or anything else like that, but there are many people who expected that stock to get to that $500 mark to be a $1 trillion company in just a few years. Now, I have no idea where this expectation came from because based on my valuation, I have it at basically a $45 stock in that time frame if management actually executes. And yes, I know I'm conservative, guys, I apologize, but that's the way I am. I like to project out conservatively. But others had wildly different expectations, and since investing is actually individual, your outlook, your thesis, and fundamental reasons will be different from mine, so you have to make decisions based on yours. It can't be based on mine, guys, so that way we're not always going to agree. So what are my thoughts on the earnings, and what did I do in response to those earnings? Well, first, the growth rates are declining from last quarter to now, but year over year, they still actually look just fine. And that's actually part of the problem with any company that you look at and the narrative that kind of floats around about them. Basically, you can cherry pick a quarter or a subset of data and get lost in the sauce and forget to kind of pull back and look at the big picture and see how they executed for the entire year. And unfortunately, this is one of those quarters where the quarterly numbers don't look so hot compared to last quarter, but nothing remains unchanged if you look at the year's projections that Alex and the company said that they will hit. And I saw clips sent to me in my group from multiple YouTubers pointing to growth slowing this quarter and then basically taking that and projecting out over the next quarter as well and beyond. Or basically assuming the growth would be the same in Q4 as it was this quarter, but then I immediately know when somebody says that, that person has zero idea about the stock itself and has not done actual due diligence on that stock. Many businesses are cyclical. I mean, look at Apple, for example. It is cyclical, and you have to compare quarter one of this year to quarter one last year. I mean, if you look at Apple's revenue right here in December of 2021, it was $123 billion. And then look at it in March of 2022, it fell to $97 billion, which obviously clearly means Apple is done as a company. I mean, look at that revenue decline of almost 20%. So that means next quarter will also dip 20%, meaning it will be down around 75 billion or so. And by the end of the year, Apple will have no revenue at all. That's exactly what they're doing, and this is just stupid, guys, and why you have to actually study not just the current financials, but the financials of the past as well to understand and know if there is a cyclical parts to this business or not with these companies. And in Palantir's case, the US freaking government doesn't seem to pay out until Q4 at least, sometimes later, and then that's because it's, the US government. I don't know how else to explain it other than that. That's part of the business. Now, we can debate if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's the fact of life for now with Palantir, and listening to people who are giving hot takes on stocks and haven't done the due diligence to at least understand this, I would say you might want to look elsewhere for information on that particular stock, which basically kind of leads me to the next point. Management is still atrocious at communicating, although, slow down, don't yell at me, guys. They did much better this call, but they still left a lot of things out that would have helped investors better understand Palantir. Where I felt the call was a big dud was that many of the down numbers were actually explainable and reasonable. And if this team gave more detail and explained the why to it all, not a ton more, just a little bit more, investors would understand the government contract's lagging effects on the numbers and a lot of the other things that happened. You could also explain that the sales force is still taking longer to ramp up due to the complexities of the product and explain their one-year plan to ramp up the sales team when you expect them to start paying dividends to the bottom line and all kinds of stuff like that they just didn't do that. Basically, if they communicated just a tiny bit as a management team, they would have explained and actually given what the numbers would have actually been if you didn't have foreign exchange headwinds again. But they didn't do any of that, and that is a failure on management's part. They literally did none of this. But that also does not mean that just because management doesn't communicate it well, or at all in some cases, that it's not true or the actual real story. But I also want to really highlight this next point because it's important for you as an investor. Now, I know many folks either watch an earnings call along with a YouTuber, or they just wait for their favorite YouTuber's reaction to the call instead of listening to the call untainted without anyone else's analysis or opinion kind of in your mind when you sit down to listen to it. And I'm sure there are some folks out there who didn't listen to the call at all and just basically watched a reaction or analysis video or read an article about it, and that's basically all they did. Not calling anybody out, not saying it's you or anything like that, and maybe I'm wrong altogether, but I know I personally never listen to anyone's take on any earnings call. Even when a clip is sent to me for a response in my group, I don't watch it until I listen to the call and have taken my notes. But I personally thought this call went way better than last quarter's call, and although Alex was Alex once again, I don't know why we would expect any different, there was nothing out of the ordinary, and despite the flaws in communication, they did just fine, guys. It was not bad. I have listened to thousands of these things and have endured many actual disaster calls way worse than the last call, much less this call, which was honestly fine, guys. There was nothing earth-shattering. It was not the best ever or anything else like that. It was just fine. But in the end, for me, nothing changed fundamentally with this stock. I had no expectation that the sales team would be ramped up and performing this fast as we discussed after the last call. If the IT professionals in my group say it's incredibly hard to grasp, then how long is it going to take the sales team to figure it out well enough to pitch it to their clients? How long does it take to build a sales team from scratch to begin with in the first place? I honestly have no idea. All the materials have to be built, the presentations, get the salespeople through the HR process, security process, all those sort of things like that just kind of have to happen before you can even have them hit the road, much less actually selling. Now, if by Q1 next year they aren't paying dividends at all, then I agree they failed there and we are having a completely different conversation. But to expect them to be dominating this fast isn't realistic in my opinion either, so that's honestly why I'm not worried about it. And having owned and listened to earnings calls from other defense contractors, I've heard them discuss a bad quarter and no revenue growth because of the government not executing payments in a timely manner a million times before. So is anyone shocked by that from the US government with all its dysfunction? Now, I agree, management needed to communicate it clearly with the numbers and a clear message, and they failed at that once again, but that doesn't make it not true either, guys. There were absolutely some things I am watching more closely and absolutely some things management needs to improve on. Even though they did improve this time around, there's a long way to go for them to kind of be at kind of like that Apple level. And I'm not sure they can actually get there. They don't need to actually get there, but they got a long way to go. But nothing made me change my 3 to 5 year outlook on this stock. So I happily bought more shares last week at $6 and some change, and I'm up big already on those shares. But I'm here for much more, so don't expect to see me selling anytime soon, or at least until the next quarter, and we'll see what happens then. So hopefully this was helpful, and if you don't know how to get a price target or how to do evaluation and want a step-by-step process for doing that, building wealth, and you want direct access to me and much more, remember to check out the pinned comment down below to become a member and at least look at everything you get. And click this video here for the stocks I'm still buying in this market, and click here for exactly what I'm doing to make huge money in this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.